Act only according to that maxim by which you can at the same time will that it should become a universal law. Enlightenment is man's emergence from his self-imposed knowledge. Out of the crooked timber of humanity, no straight thing was ever made. Morality is not the doctrine of how we may make ourselves happy, but how we may make ourselves worthy of happiness. All our knowledge begins with the senses, proceeds then to the understanding, and ends with reason. There is nothing higher than reason. Two things are me most, the starry sky above me and the moral law within me. He who is cruel to animals becomes hard also in his dealings with men. We can judge the heart of a man by his treatment of animals. Science is organized knowledge. Wisdom is organized life. The mind is furnished with ideas. By experience alone, always recognize that human individuals are ends in themselves, and do not use them as mere means to your ends. Act as if the maxim of your action were to become, through your will, a universal law of nature. It is not necessary that whilst I live happily, but it is necessary that so long as I live I should live honorably. In law, a man is guilty when he violates the rights of others. In ethics, he is guilty if he only thinks of doing so. Experience without theory is blind, but theory without experience is mere intellectual play. I am, therefore, a transcendental idealist, because I regard the senses as mere representations of appearances, and intuition of objects as nothing but the synthesis of these representations, and consequently as mere forms of the subject's own thought, which are not applicable to things in them. Live your life as though your every act were to become a universal law. All thought must, directly or indirectly, by way of certain characters, relate ultimately to intuitions, and therefore, with us, to sensibility, because in no other way can an object be given to us. The only true object of education is to prepare the mind to encounter the vicissitudes of life. Ingratitude is the essence of vileness. The death of dogma is the birth of morality. Happiness is not an ideal of reason, but of imagination. By a lie, a man annihilates his dignity as a man. Science is organized knowledge, wisdom is organized life. The greatest happiness you can have is knowing that you do not necessarily require happiness. If man makes himself a worm, he must not complain when he is trodden on. The desire for happiness is a natural right, but happiness itself is not. Immaturity is the incapacity to use one's intelligence without the guidance of another. I had therefore to remove knowledge in order to make room for belief. The world is not a mere puzzle to be solved, but a living and growing organism to be studied and understood. All our knowledge begins with the senses, proceeds then to the understanding, and ends with reason. There is nothing higher than reason. Two things fill the mind with ever-increasing wonder and awe. The more often and the more intensely the mind of thought is drawn to them. The starry heavens above me and the moral law within me. To be human is to be rational, and to be rational is to seek the truth. Freedom is the only end for which man should earnestly strive. Everything else is only a means to this end.
All human beings have inherent worth and dignity, and should be treated as ends in themselves, not merely as means to an end. The highest good is the good will.
The highest good is the good will. It is not enough to know, one must also apply. It is not enough to will, one must also act. A lie is a universal vice, and all nations are alike in this respect. Only the comprehension of the universality of reason can make human beings truly free. Justice is the constant will to give each one his due. The only thing that can be called good without qualification is a good will. We are not rich by what we possess, but by what we can do without. All our knowledge begins with the senses, proceeds then to the understanding, and ends with reason. There is nothing higher than reason. The highest wisdom is to be able to judge all things, and yet not be judgmental. Man is not only a rational being, but also a moral being. The human being is the only creature who must be educated. The moral law is not a matter of empirical observation or contingent preference, but a necessary and universal principle that applies to all rational beings. The purpose of human life is to achieve happiness by living in accordance with the moral law. It is the capacity for self-determination that distinguishes human beings from mere animals. To be enlightened is to be free from prejudice, superstition, and dogmatism, and to think for oneself.